Okay, I'm here with Jim Hunt of Bell Anderson. Jim started with Bell Anderson in 1995 as a broker. He worked his way up to becoming the CEO of Bell Anderson in 2009. We were talking a little bit before the show. I've been around. I was originally from the Pacific Northwest, so I've heard of you guys. I know who you are, and large agency, lots of policyholders, long history in the Pacific Northwest. Great company. And we're excited to hear your story today, Jim.
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. So walk me back, 1995. So it sounds like, you graduated from UW, took a job. And for those listening that aren't from the Pacific Northwest, University of Washington up there in Seattle, you took a job with an insurance company. And then what made you segue first from insurance company to insurance agent?
Yeah, so I had a great run with Great American Insurance in both Seattle, the Twin Cities, and a little bit out of Cincinnati. And most people coming out of college just don't know what the industry is, and I certainly didn't either. Certainly didn't know what an insurance broker was, and then it became my entire job to learn everything about them, serve their needs, figure out what their customers want, and it didn't take long for me to figure out, hey, I could probably do that. There's a great amount of flexibility there. I was out in the Twin Cities territory when, so my job was basically marketing to brokers, but also underwriting and quoting up policies and helping them sell. And so I remember we had a 26 location account that I was helping a broker out of the Twin Cities, drove all the way out to Sioux Falls, South Dakota to help them make the pitch. Basically, I did the entire sale, and their agency walked away with $75,000 in commissions, and I got a thank you windbreaker. So that was kind of the moment of, oh, I get
I'm in
this
the wrong line of work here.
I understand the game now. So that was it. I was really looking for a moment to find an agency where I'd have an opportunity not just to build a book of business, but to find myself into a leadership role. And Bell Anderson just fit all of those things for me in 1995. I called on the agency, really liked the people, and there was just a good opportunity for really anybody that wanted to work really, really hard to put themselves in an equity position and really excel.
Sure. And then so you came into the agency as a broker, 1995. How long did it take before you were able to start acquiring stock?
Right away. That was one of the things that I really liked about what my predecessors had put together was they really wanted every producer to have equity in their pocket so that everybody had skin in the game and understood kind of how this worked. And it was a very progressive play that they did. And what they did was they had a 52-62 deal. So for those that are still independent out there, I'd recommend this highly. So at 52, you couldn't acquire any more stock. Didn't mean you have to retire. You didn't have to leave your book, anything else. It's just you couldn't acquire any more stock. And at 62, you had to divest. And that was selling back to the corporation. So just as you could buy in with cash or on a 10-year note payable to the corporation, so also you would know, and the agency could plan for anybody turning 62, your 10-year note would start. So there was always a perpetuation of stock in the agency. It's what my predecessors wanted to see happen when there was just a Bell and just an Anderson. Mm-hmm. A number of other guys and gals came in, and it was 5 or 6 of them, and that became eventually 14 of us that all had equity stakes. That had everybody kind of understood the rules of the game. That there would be a moment in time, just by the fact that people would age out. That the stock would move back into the corporation, and I knowing that, I saw that there would be an opportunity down the road.
For sure. How just for those listening, because I know you guys are substantial players in the Pacific Northwest. How many producers do you guys have? How big a book of business are you guys working with? Tell us more about Bell Anderson.
You bet. So the agency, going back to 2017 at the time of the Acrisure transaction. Yeah. We were, in terms of revenue, right around 12.5 million. And so total employee count back then, probably 68 to 70 at the time we closed. Large books of business, both in small business, in large, you name it, big personal lines book. So we look like most other agencies, just at a larger scale. The real story is then since that time, with Acrisure's ability to, be a capital partner for us and let us kind of do what we've always done, which is, grow organically, but also acquire agencies. And so we've done 14 transactions in the Pacific Northwest since May of 2017. And our run rate now is just under $40 million for this coming year.
So 12.5 to 40 million
in less than 5 years.
That's incredible.
And so total employee count, probably about 150 employees now. And of that, probably about 30 are, full-time sales and production.
So that's really good though. I mean, because you go from 12.5 million, about 70 employees. Now you're at 40 million with, with just under double of what you had in 2009. I mean, that's the math pencils out on that. Like, that's really good.
It is, and it's a testament to the partnership of what we've got going with Acrisure, and we have a great team internally to help build this out, and then with our brand, we've got a big reach in the Pacific Northwest, but most of the folks here are doing business. It's Bell Anderson Agency Inc. DBA, their own name. So there's a lot of folks that you wouldn't know that are really Bell Anderson or that are even Acrisure. We've just always said it's got to be good for both parties to want to put that name forward, and it's up to you. So there's a lot of autonomy that we've created, both that Acrisure has given us, but also that we've given to agency partners we work with.
Perfect. How long has Bell Anderson been around?
1929. We're knocking on the door of 100 years. So
cool.
It's crazy.
So 1929 all the way up to 2009. So you're talking, 80 years.
Yep.
You're got this run, right, of this basically semi-privately held company in Seattle, Washington area. Yep. What made you think it's a good idea to change the business plan of what we've been doing for the past almost 100 years? And I mean, obviously it was a good call, right? But at the time, how did you know that was a good idea?
We said no. This was not the plan, and it's really interesting because we were exactly what you wouldn't see selling. Right, it's not what you would have thought because of that internal perpetuation. That's kind of handled. There's it's not it's not a Bell and an Anderson at in their mid 60s going, gosh, we have to sell. Our average weighted owner age at the time we did the transaction was 42. So we were a young agency by age, though not by how long Bell Anderson's been around, but
sure,
because we perpetuated, we had a long runway, and so we have a track record of organic growth. We've got a young ownership group that has a bright future ahead of it, and so all those things just made us that much more attractive to the outside world. But we weren't for sale. Absolutely, 100%. Our board was dead set against it, and we were ready to kind of just run off and keep doing what we were doing for the next 20, 25 years.
So then Acrisure approached you and said, hey.
So then Acrisure approached us. I met a guy named Greg Williams, and out of the gate, really liked Greg, liked the story. I think, it was completely different than what you hear from, a number of other acquirers out there, in that, the worst thing to do with an acquired asset is change everything, right? So here's your new automation system. Here's your producer comp. We're going to announce the deal to all of the world, whether you like it or not. And so those are all of the things that you kind of say, wait a second, this is different. We don't want to announce it. We don't have to, because we're still us. And, our agency automation system is the same one we had prior to sale. Our business cards haven't changed, though we could change them if we wanted to. And so I liked the story of where it was going. And really what turned our heads was, what was happening with Acrisure, that the equity was really moving in a manner that we didn't really think we could do in 1,000 years. And that's been true. So when we met Greg, I think the first time was somewhere, I think Acrisure was around $120 million in revenue. So, about a 10x over what we were, but I felt that was a bit of a risk to sell into something at that time. And, by the time we said yes, 18 months later, I think it was close to $1 billion. And so once again, it's just one of those aha moments, should have said yes back a little bit further back, um, all of the things that Greg has put forward as to what not to do with an acquired asset, has just rung true. At 5 years into this, I can sit here and tell folks that really, this is exactly as advertised. We are who we are. Our day is our own. There are some certain things that you've got to do because you did sell, but for the most part, it doesn't feel that way. And so we've got access to unlimited capital to go buy new agencies to help those come under us, or just help them be part of Acrisure. We give people the choice. Do you want to be part of what we have locally here? Tagging onto our contracts and our capabilities, or hey, you can just do your own thing. Either way, we've been involved with this. So, it's been a big head turner for us as far as where we thought we'd be, and it's miles ahead. The wealth moment that in 2017 was great, but it's really where we thought in the longer term this would be, and it's already surpassed that. And so what Acrisure has become, absolutely beyond where we thought we'd be.
Yeah, it's really mind blowing what those guys have done over there, and gals. I mean, the interchangeable. But you look at a company like Acrisure, and you're like, it's just incredible, the amount of the stuff that they put together, and then the way that the profitability and their EBITDA growth and all sorts of things have gone. So I mean, an agency out there that's not a $10-12 million agency. Obviously by coming on board and selling to somebody that's much, much larger, you're going to get larger market access. You're going to get, more advertising resources. You're going to get human resources that you didn't have available to you before. Walk me through what was the pitch? Like, hey, Jim, we're Acrisure and we want to buy Bell Anderson. And you're like, you're crazy, right? At first, but because what resources could they possibly have brought to the table that Bell Anderson didn't already have?
No, great question. So the thing that again, for a lot of the reasons that we were attractive to Greg and the team back in 2017, the other one was just scarcity. There was nobody in the Northwest for Acrisure. They were still looking at a transaction. I think they'd just done one up in Anchorage, nothing in Oregon, nothing in Washington, and nothing in Idaho. And so we were really a platform for Acrisure to be able to springboard into the growth that they've done. But what we saw, other than obviously, great economics,
right,
was just the fact that there was, and it's a tagline within the company, but there's no limits, right? So there are markets that we didn't have access to. There were, other capabilities. Though we were in the employee benefit space, we wanted to be better than we were. And so this allowed us to do two things. One, we were able to go out and acquire agencies in the EB space that were frankly better than what we were doing. So we just added to our arsenal here locally by doing that and aggregating up to now, what was just under $2 million in revenue for us at the time of sale is now, approaching 12 million. So, I mean, that's substantial. But more than that is then these national resources. So our employee benefits producers all of a sudden, have this just amazing access to, compliance, to other automation that we'd never had a sniff at, to other brokers, and this huge network of people saying, hey, what if, I have this account, I've never done anything like this before. All of a sudden you put this out to 2,000, employees at the time, and there's answers. Yeah, I can help. I have, a TPA here in the Northeast that specializes in what you do. I have an ERISA attorney that can help you out on that. So what you see is just a lot of connectivity between agency partners in saying, I have the market you don't have, I can help you get to there. Or I just have, I do what you're talking about. I'm deep into trucking. Though you might have the same market. You don't want to. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But there's experts out there within Acrisure to go leverage.
So just the community of it, the whole thing that's awesome.
Yeah.
Tell me about what is it for you? Because I'm assuming by the time you sold in 2017, you had a decent amount of shares of Bell Anderson. You were probably a significant stockholder. What was it like for you? I mean, did they roll out stock for the folks that were shareholders in the new corporation that they created? They obviously probably cashed out some of it. What did that deal look like for the owners of the Bell Anderson?
Yeah, it was pretty stock heavy. Something that we wanted, and the reason we were doing this was an equity trade. We Bell Anderson stock was doing just fine.
Yeah.
But man, Acrisure is on a rocket ship, and we wanted to be part of that. So we had really it was almost a three-party deal, because we had an ESOP as well, which it was sitting in a minority position, and that had to take all cash. It couldn't take any stock. So the balance of us as individual owners ended up. So typically, you see around 25% equity in deals, at least at the time, from Acrisure. And so that 25% had to slide over into the individuals. And so it became much more of a 60-40 play for each of us. So our deal, is really, it's betting on that second bite to a large extent. And it's, from a dividend, from capital appreciation, and from the projected trajectory of where this is going, all of that, our second bite will be larger than the first, and that's unbelievable.
For sure. And you said something that I haven't heard a lot of yet. And that is that, you guys now have access to capital to go do the acquisitions that you want to do. So you're in a position, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're in a position where you're Bell Anderson, you're out, you're acquiring folks, you're growing organically, you're, doing the grind daily, and then you get acquired. A lot of that still, stays the same, but now you've got more access to more capital, maybe a team of acquirers that can, be employed for you and doing some research and stuff like that. Is that kind of how all that went? Is now you've just supercharged your ability to acquire? Because I think that's a lot of people are going, no, I want to acquire right now, and then I want to be acquired. But what you're saying is you guys are doing both.
Exactly. It's fun because the folks on the M&A team go from, being on the other side of a table to now all of a sudden they're working with and for you.
Right.
Is the big change. And so we had a proclivity to buy agencies prior to sale. This just put steroids to it. So we have an ability to help agencies put a pro forma together that have never done it before.
Right.
To kind of spoon feed a little bit as to here's what the process looks like. We've been through it. We've done 14 transactions post sale. So we've got experience that really not a lot of folks have. And oftentimes it'll be, gosh, I don't think this is the best deal for you. I think you need to keep doing what you're doing. Or the timing just doesn't seem right. We know what we're looking for as far as agencies that are showing organic growth, that have a good margin, that have a good story. We want that to be accretive for everybody. And it's knowing the game and knowing and understanding kind of what works and what doesn't.
Sure. So 5 years post acquisition, you guys have acquired 14 agencies under Bell Anderson.
Yeah, all of them are under our corporate FEIN number, and they are us.
That's awesome. The 5 years prior to acquisition, how many agencies did you guys acquire?
The 5 prior, pretty close, about 9.
About 9. Wow.
From just varying books of business to full-on agencies.
Okay. How have your daily responsibilities changed since 2017?
Boy, a lot. It's going from you're worried about the income statement and the balance sheet, to then just really worrying about the income statement. The things that are that you sit there as an agency owner, and you can horribilize really well, right? Gosh, what could end us? Is it the E&O claim? Is it the big Cascadia subduction zone event that's going to
Right.
end all of our clients? And what do we do? It takes that existential risk, and the scare of all of that, and it just takes it away. So immediately, your shoulders drop about 3 inches after you sell, because just you have just a giant, partner behind you, that's sitting there saying, "We got this." So when you're doing a trade, you're de-risking, right? So you're doing this trade to kind of take yourself out of those day-to-day, I'm signing personally for this loan, from though you may have corporate indemnity, it's just your corporation that's, again, at the time, 12 million plus in the Northwest. Now it's, something approaching $4 billion. So, so my day-to-day is different in that, I'm not worried about the bank line. I'm not worried about, looking at the balance sheet anymore, because it really exists in a different place, and it's others' responsibility. So it's all about organic growth. It's all about helping find other agencies to bring in, but it's being a good partner to other agency partners. So I would say probably a third to half my week is just helping other Acrisure agencies, whether it's, hey, we don't have access to this market, or, we're thinking about coming into Acrisure. What do I've, heard you're a good resource to talk to. So we just get calls kind of out of the blue with both from the acquisition side, but also from, current agency partners that are looking for help and advice, what to do, how to do it. How do we make 1 and 1 equal 3?
Sure. If you could give an agency owner one piece of advice getting ready to go into the acquisition process, because that's what we're kind of discovering here, right? Is that acquisitions, because I think a lot of people think about acquisitions as an exit, but I think that the world of acquisitions has expanded so much to where it's really less and less of an exit and more of a growth strategy. So if you could, somebody that either doesn't think that they should be looking at it, or somebody that's starting the process of thinking about it, what would your advice to them be?
The biggest thing is going to be this industry is massively changing right now before our eyes. And, when we're talking about fintech, when we're talking about, agencies and technology are on a really fast track through AI, through all of these other things that are coming. And what I would say is, if you don't have a capital partner now, I would seriously look at finding one. Acrisure, in our world, has been the best answer, and I would tell you, I think it still is for anybody out there. There's a lot of folks trying to emulate what Acrisure is doing, but we're kind of the proof of the pudding that it's worked and we've grown as much. But I would say to an agency owner that's seriously starting to contemplate it, don't make assumptions. I hear oftentimes to folks that are sellers that eventually become sellers, I always thought this, or I just assumed we were not worth what we were worth, or I thought I needed to grow for 5 years before I would be able to get sold and have a good deal. With what the economics are right now, take those blinders off, but also take the delimiters off your engine, because it's incredible. I mean, if you look at the transactions that we've done, we've gone down to small, just books of business of $200,000 or $300,000, up to agencies that are 5 and 6 here in the Northwest. But each of them had a reason and a story and a place to be here, to the point where we've more than tripled the revenue, and our margin has expanded by 12 points. So it's each of those have added a flavor into something much, much larger, and we've done now that for Acrisure as well. But that's the biggest piece of advice I would say is, don't limit yourself, don't limit your thoughts as to who you are and what you represent, because what you have likely is a very valuable asset, and that don't let the timing get in the way.
Sure. If you had to compare the value of your stock that you held in Bell Anderson in 2016 to the value of the stock that you now hold in Acrisure in 2022. Is that really even a comparison?
It's not. I mean, so you look at the original trade from what our internal, because we had an ESOP, we had a value every year.
Right.
So that had to be done. And that was, divided by 3, discounted by 10% because we're, it's a minority held agency. So we knew our internal value was much, much less than the external. So from there to here, pretty substantial out of the gate. But I can just tell you from where we, from the stock price of 5/1 of 17 to the stock price of now, well over 400%, not including an 8% compounding dividend. And so from that time, I mean, we're probably looking at just in this 5-year term from the original Bell Anderson equity to where I sit now, 12, 13, 14, 15 times. I mean, it's incredible. And that's what I mean by the economics. You just sometimes don't understand what you're really worth. And again, we had a card carrying CFO. I attended Marshberry. We knew what the market was. And even then we were surprised by, I didn't think our EBITDA was actually that high. Our pro forma is higher than we knew.
Right.
Boy, the market was hotter for us than we understood. And that's 5 years ago. And I will just tell you, it's better now than it was then. So,
oh boy,
you're seeing it. So
really is. Well, and I think that's cool is through this merger and acquisition series that we've done, we started off talking to Acrisure and, these other folks that do acquisitions and buyers and what are you looking for and stuff like that. And now we heard them saying all along, that, hey, people that don't think that they're ready to sell or people that don't think that they want to do this, they should still look at it, right? Just to know what an option is. As a business person, it's always a good idea to know what your options are and to examine everything. But really, now that we're diving in on the other side of the transaction and we're starting to talk to people who have sold, I mean, this truth is like speaking more evidently to me because and we heard that from one of the guys. I think it was Optimum Performance Solutions. It was an episode, several episodes back,
Sure.
where he said, people look at the growth post acquisition and they go, "Gosh, I never should have sold because if I had have sold, I'd have kept 100% of the stock." It was like you never would have got there if you wouldn't have sold. No. And so you look at. I mean, and this is such a great example. You look at, 80-year history up to 12.5 million, which is nothing to sneeze at. Just out of curiosity, so 12.5 million was just the revenue. What was the book of business size on that? I mean, you got to be talking pushing 100 million, right?
Well, yeah, over 100 million.
Over 100 million.
Again, a lot of benefits premium. So again, that's lower commission spread, but premium's large, right? So
yeah. So I mean, now you guys,
well over 100 million.
So now you guys are, somewhere between $500 million and $1 billion in premium.
Yeah, you take 401k, you take all the benefit stuff we're doing, all the annuities,
right?
All of it. You add it through. It's amazing. Yeah, this is we couldn't have done this.
You guys went further in 5 years, almost 2.5 times ish is the growth in 5 years that you did in 80 years before that.
Exactly the point of the capital. And that's what I meant by, don't limit yourself because the other side. So, and the economics part is great. And I would say equally important is the fact that the autonomy has remained.
Sure.
Right. It's one thing to sell it and then you've kind of put your soul to rent. But there are buyers like Acrisure that have figured this out, that independent agencies are fiercely independent for a reason. And if we can be a capital partner to that agency and give them the resources that they need to continue to do it, many of them will shine just as Bell Anderson has done.
Sure. Jim, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. And best of luck to you guys in the future, but it doesn't sound like you might need very much.
All good. Thank you so much for having me on.
Appreciate it, Jim. Have a good day.
Take care. Bye-bye.